Okay, so today we will jump into TT211. This is for verify and secure. The goal of this session is to better understand our sales messaging behind here and to understand what it does. So one part is how to use it in your conversations. The other part is next time someone talks about their CI/CD or their DevSecOps, I want to share with you what this stuff actually does so that you can have a more confident conversation when it comes up. Okay.
All right.
Sweet. So last time what we talked about is our project management and our SCM. Continuing the story, we're moving on to our CI/CD and our DevSecOps. Okay. So just sort of like talking about how important these things are. This is the main reason why people buy GitLab, right? If someone is just using us for SCM, a lot of these people are going to stay in the free tier. What the product data actually shows is when people start adopting verify and secure, that's when people move from free to premium a lot of the time. Okay. And then if you look at like our biggest differentiators, most of them actually have to do with these. So our three biggest differentiators is single application, SCM and CI in one application, and built-in security and compliance. All right. So this is a super important session. This is really how we're separated from a lot of our competitors. And that's what we're talking about today. Okay.
Okay, good.
All right, awesome. When you go to a store and you want to buy like a tape measure, how much time do you spend figuring out which one you want to buy?
For a tape measure, not much time actually. I just check, well, how long is it? Yeah, what length do I need? And then of course I check how much is it.
Sure.
So of course the least expensive wins, yeah, and the cheapest wins.
That's exactly what I do too. Like I'm thinking price and functionality, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to share is that source control management and project management is kind of like this. So what I mean by this is it's a crowded market. You can go on Google and search for 40 best project management tools, right? And we might not even be on this list. So what we really don't want to do is try to, when we talk about SCM and plan, we are one solution among many different companies out there. You don't want to be one solution among 40, right? What you really want to do is to be one of two, okay? And then so what we're talking about is the platform story. How many tools right now have SCM, CI/CD, project management, DevSecOps all built into a single application? It's really two, maybe three right now, and that's us and Microsoft. Okay. So yeah, just doubling down. The great value driver that we have is this single application with SCM, CI, and DevSecOps built in. Okay. So I never really lead with like SCM and project management differentiators. Okay, so going back to our value drivers, the three main things that benefits is increase your efficiency, help you to deliver better products faster, and reduce your security and compliance risk. Okay, so just talking a little bit about like, how do we actually do this? So that's where verify comes in. So imagine it's 100 years ago and you're an author, you're writing these books. Okay, you write a 300-page manuscript with pen and paper, and then you mail it to an editor, right? The editor lives in a different city, and then this editor then just goes through your entire manuscript, gives you all sorts of corrections, revisions, mails it back to you. You fix a lot of the things they say. You mail it back to the editor. He does it again. And then you do this 3 to 4 times, right? And finally, you guys have like something that you both agree is like a good copy. Is that something that can happen quickly, or does that take a lot of time?
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's like what verify is for software engineers really is sort of like, if you think about like Google Docs, every time you spell a word wrong, or if you say something that doesn't make sense, it gives you like the green line, the blue line, where it tells you something in real time that is not right. What verify is it's automated quality checks for software. So just to share this with you right now, every time someone wants to write new software, they submit a merge request. The merge requests come in, and you can see over here, this person's name is Jesse Lee, right? Jesse Lee is trying to merge in this new code. The change is that she wants to get in this green code, take out the red code. So she's submitting a suggestion to change the code, right? Every time that this runs, we have all this automation that runs. As an example here, 127,000 tests were run. Code quality ran too. And then so what we're doing is, this is checking that your software runs, that it's good, and that your code is high quality. Okay.
Mm.
So just to give an analogy, just like how when you're writing Google Docs, there's the green line, there's the blue line. When you're writing software, our verify gives you real-time feedback on the quality of the software you're writing. And then just like how that story about the editor, you write a book, you mail it in, then you fix it, then you write a book again, you keep doing this over and over again. The value of verify is that you have automated quality checks giving you real-time feedback that allows you to speed up this process. Okay. Cool. Can I help clarify anything here, or does that okay?
That's
Great. Okay. All right. So the next thing I talk about is agile. Just a review. Most people, I don't want to say most people, but a lot of people, they write software in a waterfall manner. What that means is you give like a bunch of engineers a design document saying like, hey, I want a website. I want my website to do A, B, and C. Here's some pictures. Here's examples of similar websites. Here's my logo, right? And then I go away and come back 6 months later, and then they give me my website. Okay. So the challenge with that is that it's just sort of like, do they have custom houses in Germany? Like people buy custom houses?
You can buy also custom houses, yes.
Okay, cool. So it's sort of like if you get a custom house, you have a big design document, you give it to the builder, you go away, and then you come back 6 months later when the house is built. The problem is that if they make a mistake in the first floor, you might have to rip off the second floor and the third floor to get it fixed, right?
Yeah.
So agile is different because agile is an example where you build the foundation, and then your builder comes back with the buyer. They see if it needs to get fixed, and they do that before they put up the wood planks, and then builder comes back with buyer again, and they're doing this constantly throughout the build process. If a mistake is found, they'll fix it before the next layer starts. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So how does GitLab actually help out with this? Number one, we have all the tooling that you need to have agile workflows. So I'll just give you an example of this. So over here, you can see iterations.
Mm-hmm.
An iteration is basically like stage one, build the foundation. Stage two, put up the wood planks. Stage three, put in the electricity, right? So we have a lot of the software that you need to really do this well. And ultimately, the business value of why someone wants this is because you ever like go hiking and you go hiking in the wrong direction, you realize I hiked 3 kilometers in the wrong direction. I need to go back 3 kilometers just so that I could go the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're doing agile combined with your automated software testing, you're constantly giving your teams real-time feedback. And then that's an efficiency gain that you have over your competitors, right? Because you're always moving on the right track theoretically.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's always often that ideas changes, and if you have new ideas, you have to build it in, right? So if you have a fixed plan and you cannot change the plan, then it's difficult. But if you work agile and you get new ideas coming in, you can react directly.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Awesome. So just sort of review some of these things. CI/CD, it's our automated software testing. CI is our automated software testing. CD is really for more automation of redeploying of your applications. What that means is like you changed your code, right? There's still now a step for getting this code onto the computers that run your website. So if you accept the merge request, the code is now in GitLab. You still have a second step for getting your code into the computers that run your application. So CD really stands for getting the code into the computers that run your application. Okay. But yeah, so just to recap, verify what it's about, automated software testing. And if you have things like automated software testing, automated security testing, agile, you're going to have a big advantage over other people. All right. And then so going back to how do we make people more efficient? How do we help them to deliver better products faster? Verify is a huge part of this, because if I'm getting real-time feedback on the software I'm writing, and then you're doing this, write this manuscript, and then someone else checks it, and then you have to fix it, and going back and forth, I'm going to have an advantage over you. You see what I mean?
Right.
Okay, great.
Efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. Can I help clarify anything? Or yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what is some of the benefit of all this automation? Number one, best practices. A lot of people want these things. They actually did a study a long time ago, and then they found out that like how much business value are people actually getting out of things like agile development? And then the answer was a lot of people were disappointed by it. And the reason why is because they started out trying to do it, but a lot of people don't know to do it right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So just to sort of recap, our automation, it helps people get these best practices. All right. So CI/CD, running automation, having verified quality checks. Okay. Other things is our automation helps people save time, money, reduce human error. And so just as an example of this automation, it takes 70 minutes, 6 seconds to run. Okay. So now as an engineer, that's 70 minutes that I can be doing something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
right.
exactly. Okay, cool. All right. So now switching gears a little bit, talking a little bit about some of these things. It's a little bit more technical. The reason why I want to go over these things with you is that the next time it goes up in your conversation, I want you to have the confidence to be able to talk about these things using the terminology that people actually use. Okay. So it's going to be a little bit more academic, but we'll just go from one topic to the next. Okay.
Okay.
So number one, people are going to talk about software tests in your conversations a lot. I want to talk about what this is. So when we looked at this pipeline, there's 127,000 tests that are run. So what actually is a software test, right? So the way to sort of think about it is a software test could be, if I click on this button, does this thing appear? So that's one test. If I click here, does it go away? Okay. So people are writing for every single button, they're writing a software test for every single, like, if I hover my mouse over here, does this appear? If I hover it back over here, does it go away? That's another software test. So what they'll do is they'll break your application down into small pieces and then write out software tests, which is actually code for every part of your application. So literally there's 2 tests around this button. There's 2 tests around this button. There's 2 tests around this button. Like every single one has its own tests, right? A long time ago, I wrote piece of, I wrote an application, which is chess. So over here, this is a chessboard. That's why it's an 8x8 grid, right? And
Mhm.
then so I wrote the game of chess using code. Okay. And so I just want to share with you some of the tests that we wrote. So if you think about a game, there's certain things that each piece should be able to do. Like one piece moves up one space, the other one only moves sideways. One piece only moves up and down and to the left and the right, right?
Right.
So part of me writing these tests is there's this one piece, can it move forward one space? Can this other piece, can it move forward multiple spaces, right? So each of these is like one component of my application. I'm writing all of these tests. So this is verifying that the game, it should only allow a piece to move in a legal direction. If it's moving in an illegal direction, the game should be smart enough to say, hey, you can't do this, right?
Mhm. Right.
So I had to write all of this code to verify that the pieces are still working as they should. So this is testing that legal moves work. I also need to test that illegal moves are rejected. So what I mean by that is, can my horse piece, can it move diagonally? It shouldn't be able to, right? The game should be smart enough to tell you, hey, that's not right. So, like let's it should get rejected, right?
Right.
So over here you can see I literally have 700 lines, all of this, which is just like testing my chess application. So this is like several hundred software tests just for something simple like chess. Okay. Okay. So many different types of software tests. I'm not going to go into all of them, but when people say integration tests, user interface tests, um, unit tests, what you just need to know is that there's many different types. Okay. And then they're just talking about the different types. Um, Moving on to what code quality is. Code quality is something that comes up in your conversations from time to time too. So what code quality really is imagine if everyone wrote their code differently. So just like how in any language, you have to have a common set of rules for what like makes good and bad, let's just say English.
Mhm.
And when you're writing code, you also need to have common set of rules as to, I'll just show you an example, but it's like, how do you indent your codes? Should you use the tab or should you use spaces? How long should the maximum line of code be? Right.
Mhm.
So it's all sorts of this, like, how many blank lines should you have? Okay. So if you have too many blank lines, your code will still run. It's just that if everyone's writing their code differently, then the next person who's reading your code, it could look kind of weird for them. And then so to have a common framework where everyone's writing their code similarly, it helps people to read and edit other people's code. Okay.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Um, has that come up in any of your conversations out of curiosity?
No, not so far.
Not so far. Okay. Um, so the value that we have over here is code quality is built in. Every time you're writing new code, we'll scan it for quality. Okay. So if you do something where it's like you have too many spaces, you have too many blank lines, the code quality will tell you. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is review applications. Review applications come up more in the POC stage, but if you have a trial, they may come up where people want to know about it. Um, so a lot of people think that developers code all day. The truth is that developers do code, but they're actually spending a lot of time doing other stuff. One of the things that they do is they actually edit and review other people's code. So when I was an engineer, probably around 15, 20% of my time was spent reviewing other people's code. Okay. So imagine it's your job and you need to go see this person, Jesse Lee, wants to get this code in, right? Imagine if it's your job to figure out if you should get this in or not, right?
Mm.
If you're not familiar with this code, it might be a little bit hard to understand because it's all of this like complicated stuff, right? So regularly when you are trying to see if this code works or not, then you're just looking at the code change, right? That's kind of complicated. What a review application is it's a live running version of your website so that you can actually visually see the change. So let's just say that this code changed the color of the button from blue to red. As opposed to you looking at this code trying to figure it out, you can just see the button, you can click on it, it works, you like it, your review is now faster. Okay.
Okay.
That's what a review app is. Cool. Can I help clarify anything or everything?
All clear. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, cool. So now let's move on to our next value driver, security and compliance risk. This has to do with the secure stage. So now moving on to this section. Okay. So talking a little bit about what secure does. So just a review, when I was an engineer, we would write code for 9 months, and then a separate team would come in, the security team, and then they would try to simulate being a hacker. And then they would try to bang on the window. They try to rattle the door. They try to sneak in through the second floor, and they try to break into our application, right? At the end of this, they would try to test everything. They'd give you a list of 20 things that you need to fix. What is the problem of getting a list of 20 things to fix when your house is already built?
Yeah, well, if it's something in the first floor, you have to break it down and start over again, no? Because if there's an issue and it affects also the other floors, I mean, if you there have somebody already breaking in, well, then it affects also the upper floors. So you have to start over. It's
Exactly.
very tough.
Right. Oh, so do you think so if I'm getting so like if they tell me, hey, your windows are broken, right?
Mhm.
And I like put these windows in 4 months ago, do you think that's fresh in my mind? So it's like constantly when I was an engineer, here's your list of things to fix. Well, I wrote this thing 5 months ago. Do you think that's fresh in my mind, or do you think I don't really remember that what I wrote 5 months ago?
Well, it's 5 months ago. It's a long time back. You have done many different things by then, so you have to read over again. You have to rethink again. So also to read over, it takes time. So the whole process is very time consuming.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's the value of real-time feedback. There's two main issues, and you identified both of them. Number one, if you're getting feedback at the end, you might have to break off large chunks of your application, right? So if there's a problem in the foundation of your app, you might have to rip off large chunks to fix it. So I'll give you an example. Let's just say I wrote an application using a database. Database is like a foundational layer of your app, right?
Mhm.
You wrote 10,000 lines of code using Postgres 2.11, but the security team comes back and says 2.11 is not safe. You need to use 3.2 or higher. Okay. So the challenge there is you might now need to update 10,000 lines of code, right? Because you move from one version to the next of database layer, which is the foundation of your app. And like you said, if I'm constantly being asked to fix stuff I wrote 5 months ago, I probably don't remember what I wrote 5 months ago. You see what I mean? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about security. Um, so what we're doing is we're different. We have built-in security in the sense that every time someone's trying to write new code, then the security scanners are running. Okay. So we're giving people real-time feedback. If you write something that's not secure, we'll let you know. Okay. So just like that story of what you really don't want to do is to spend 9 months writing an app for Postgres 2.11 when it's not safe. You'd rather find out really quickly, and then so you continue moving in the right direction. Our security scanners, they're going to go pick up on that and give you that feedback so you can keep them moving in the right direction. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people don't have this. This is what we call DevSecOps. DevSecOps is automated security scanning. Okay. And then so that's what we do. The other thing that we do is, because GitLab is a consolidated platform for multiple teams, you can have different teams collaborating together. So for many businesses, here's your developers, here's your operations people, here's your QA people, right? And that's like, they're operating in a silo from each other. In GitLab, because operations, security, DevOps, they're all on the same platform, then you can get feedback from people on different teams, right? The security team could give you feedback. So it's another example of better synergy cross-functionally. Okay. And ultimately, so this won't apply to you as much because you're in an enterprise space, but when people start out in security, they usually get contractors. Sometimes enterprise people get contractors, but it can help to you to avoid having to hire a lot of like this extra security spend. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I clarify anything? Otherwise, we'll move into the school portion where we actually talk a little bit more about what this stuff is.
We can move on, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so I want to talk to you now a little bit more about what this stuff is. It's going to help you to be able to talk about it in a sales conversation. And when someone else mentions it, you can now respond with more confidently. Okay. So we're just going to go talk through, like, when someone buys GitLab, what do they get? I'm going to go start. We're just going to start going through these one at a time. Okay. So, okay. So the first thing they talk about is SAST and DAST. If someone asks about security in a conversation, immediately mention SAST and DAST and lead with it. Okay. Because this is like something that people know about. They want it. It's special. Okay. So what SAST and DAST is, it's the two main security scanners. I don't want to say main, but it's two very important security scanners. So what SAST is it looks at your code, and because of just sort of like, it's just analyzing your code for patterns. And if it sees something that doesn't make sense, then it gives you like this squiggly line saying like, hey, this doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's SAST. DAST is different because SAST is looking at your code. DAST requires a live running version of your application. And then what it's going to do is it's going to try to hack into your app. So it's going to, like, again, Twitter. So it's going to say like, well, .json inject SQL. So, it's going to like, what happens if I hit this? Did it work? So it's going to try to like, what happens if I, do a type of like injection techniques, right? So it's going to try to like give you feedback that way, but it requires, the difference between SAST and DAST is SAST is looking at your code. DAST has a live running version of your app that it is trying to get into. Okay. All right. So next thing is container scanning. So containers, what they are is just like how when you want a movie, you can get a DVD, you can get a VHS, you can get a Blu-ray disc, you can stream it. Everyone's streaming it now, right? But it's like there's different formats for getting your movie. When you get an application, you can get it for different formats. One is called a virtual machine, the second one's called a container. It's just a different format for running your application. Okay. So container is like one way of getting apps. What a lot of people are doing is they just download them off the internet. So
Mhm.
if you've ever like downloaded music or like movies off the internet, what
Mhm.
engineers do is they go to this website called Docker Hub, and then they download containers that are for apps. So let's just say I want an Nginx application or an Ubuntu or a Python or Redis like environment, right? I
Mhm.
can just go on this community website called Docker Hub and download it. And then as you can see, this has been downloaded over 1 billion times. All of these have been downloaded over 1 billion times. So a lot of people are doing this. Okay. The problem with this is that if I filter, there are there's over 10,000 of these things you can download, right? But now let's just go look at how many of these have a verified publisher.
Mhm.
And then now you can see a lot of these aren't even verified, right? The number decreases. Okay.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to say is this is a community website. Anyone can upload stuff. And then the danger is that like you could download something that has cryptocurrencies on it, like crypto miners on it, like Docker.
Yeah.
So here's another example. So it's like some of these container images, they had like, background. It was just like mining Bitcoin for the people. And then a billion people go download it. You actually got a lot of Bitcoin now. You know what I mean? So um, so long story short, how do you know that these containers that you downloaded that they're safe? Well, you need to have some sort of scanner for that. What we
Mhm.
have over here is a container scanner, and it's just going to go verify that the containers that you download that they're safe. Okay. So you can avoid a situation like this.
Right.
Okay, great. So moving on to the next container, what kind of car do you drive?
I drive a Skoda and like an SUV from
Oh,
Skoda.
okay. How often does your car have safety recall? Like, you get some notice. It's like, there's a problem with the airbags. You need to go bring the car in to get the airbags fixed.
Well, so far we had it once, but the car, I must say, we just bought it new last year.
Okay.
But we always have issues with getting wrong informations, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe cars are better where you are than where we're at. It's called a safety recall in English, but it's like the manufacturer discovers that there's a problem, a defective part, and then so they want to fix it. And then so you can bring your car in to the dealership, they fix it for free, right? Um, so just like how a car has many different components, your application also has many different components. So it has an API, it has a database, it has a user interface. There are all these different components, right?
Mm.
Um, and just like how with your car, every once in a while they discover, hey, there's a problem with your airbag. You need to go get this airbag fixed, right? Um, then every once in a while, your application, it's like, oh wait, your database, we found out that there's a vulnerability in it. You need to update from 2.1 to 2.3, right? It's something that literally happens all the time. So a lot of people, they don't have any understanding of which parts of their application need to get updated. And that's like a big deal. Uh,
Mhm.
what so literally one of the things that's very important for us to understand is that so you need to have some way of knowing, hey, this part of your car needs to get updated, right? So that's what dependency scanning is. What dependency scanning is, number one, we're going to list off all the parts of your application. Number two, if any of the parts of your application are out of date, we're going to let your teams know. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so number three, or I think this is like number five, is this thing called fuzz testing. Fuzz testing is something that when I've mentioned it in sales conversations, it's almost like people are like, wow, I didn't realize you had this, because this is something that's a little bit special. It's like other people have SAST. Some companies have DAST. Not very many companies have fuzz testing. Okay. But what fuzz testing is that what they realized is that many of your applications, they were only designed to work with German, or they were only designed to work with English, right? And then so when you go to when you go and then you put another language in, or let's just say that like this is expecting phone, email, or username. What if I put in numbers? What if I put in Japanese? What if I put in like, something like weird, right? That literally, because the form was expecting phone, email, or username, a lot of times the application just breaks, right? It just like shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
So just to recap, fuzz testing, what it does is it just sort of like it will go to the different parts of your application, and then it's going to insert a bunch of junk. So it's going to like
Mm-hmm.
then it'll do Japanese, Russian, Chinese, like, and it would just make sure that your forms, they can get every type of input, right? So it's
Right.
going to do it automatically. When I was an engineer, around 30% of all of the quality issues with our application had to do with someone didn't discover this. So now we have to go in and fix it, because we're a bunch of English engineers. We designed our application to run for English. We actually have an international user base. We constantly made this mistake. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So fuzz testing, that's what it is. It's automated check to make sure that it works for different types of inputs for your application. Okay. Okay, cool. So let's just talk about how to talk about premium versus free versus ultimate. This is very important. So what do you get in free? You get SAST.
Mm-hmm.
SAST is very good and very important. So it's important for everyone to know that they get SAST in the free tier. Here's the thing that I want to talk about GitLab. So GitLab pricing, GitHub pricing. So one of the things about our pricing is over here, you can see it's a big jump from premium to ultimate, right? And so why is that, right? If you look at GitHub's pricing, that's a similar thing. Their enterprise tier is like 6 times what their basic tier is, right? Well, actually, this is a bad example. Take that back. So part of the reason why our ultimate tier is so expensive is just take a look. Their security is an add-on fee. So
Mm-hmm.
you're paying for $19 per user per month, but if you want the security scanning, you have to pay $49 per user per month too, on top of the $19 per user per month. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So security is just very expensive. That's the reason why our pricing jumps like this, and you can see it in our competitors' pricing too. Okay. So ultimate, this is where the vast majority of the enterprise security features are. We give SaaS so that people can get started. But if you really want to do this and you want DevSecOps and you want to do this well, you need ultimate, period. Okay. So what I mean by that is you want all the scanners, you want to be able to configure the scanners, you want dashboards, and you want reporting for your executives. If you want that stuff, you need Ultimate. Okay. So the benefit is, why do you want it? Number one, DevSecOps. You want full DevSecOps, which will allow you to write better software faster that is more secure. Right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so just sort of moving the end of the presentation, just talking about messaging sometimes where this doesn't work as well. So I want to talk about some of these terms. DevSecOps. DevSecOps is security scanning within development. So a lot of people have automated tests. Not everyone has automated security tests. When I was an engineer, we did not have automated security tests, which is why we tested everything at the end, right?
Right.
So here's some of the things I've noticed about it. It's getting more accepted as a term, but not everyone has accepted it. So some people actually don't like the term DevSecOps. They think it's a buzzword. The approach that I do in 2023 is I mention it to executives. For more technical people, if I'm ever talking to like the chief engineer or like someone who's more in the implementation level, more technical, like a level one manager, I won't use the term DevSecOps a lot of the time. I will say we have automated security testing built into the development process. So I'll talk about what it actually is without using the term DevSecOps. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I found that some technical people dislike the term, but once again, this is changing. I think it's actually getting more embraced these days. Okay. But
Yeah.
I'll just give you an example. It's not uncommon that you sequence a bunch of people and then someone says DevSecOps is a buzzword. That's happened to a lot of the BDRs on the AMER side. Okay. One more thing about security scanning. We actually did a data analysis of our different go-to-market topics. And then we found out the meeting conversion rate if you lead your emails talking about our CI/CD versus our DevOps versus our DevSecOps. And what we found is that the highest converting sales messaging in 2023 is our DevSecOps security scanning. So that's also important to know. This is a really big deal for a lot of people right now. Okay.
Okay.
So just to give you an example, DevOps, widely accepted term, 43 million search results. DevSecOps, it's around 25% of that, right? So it's not as accepted. So just know that going in, okay? All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is shifting left. I don't use this term. This term has not been as accepted in our industry, but our marketing, a lot of times it does use it. So my personal, when I sell, I will not use the term shifting left. What it's talking about is, this is how most software development works. You define the project, you develop the code, you test it, you secure it, you deliver it, then you support it, right? So what shifting left is, as opposed to testing for security here, with DevSecOps, you're testing it as you develop it. So we have shifted left. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
The reality of the situation is that I don't think that this term really like has a lot of traction. So I would avoid using this term personally. It may be different in your region, but for me, when I'm selling, I don't use the term shifting left. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you always have to also explain, or you have to ask if they know what it means, at least, because what I realized, if it's a technical person, they know it better. But still, also you have technical persons who do not know, the idea behind, but they feel a little bit embarrassed to ask. You know what I mean? So they nod and say, "Yeah, I know what it means," but they don't.
What have you noticed in your region? Is like security hot right now? You're in the German market, but like what what have you observed?
It is, but yeah, compared with AI.
Okay, so AI is also hot right now.
Yeah, AI is hot. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay, one more slide and then we'll just review real quick. This is I get asked this question like 50% of the time in my intro calls, which is basically, I will try to share my screen. A lot of people are visual people. There's two screens that I almost always share. One is I share this screen. So you say, hey, we're a single application. Everyone's like, cool. But if I show them this screen, people are like, wow, I didn't realize that you have X, X, X. I want to hear about this more, right? So I usually share this screen. The other screen that I share a lot of the time is I share our automation screen, because people are impressed by like how many things we've automated and what this looks like. So I share this screen a lot too. The first question that I get after I share this is, I don't want this stage, this stage. How do I customize it? Okay. So the way to customize this is there's this file right here. You can see sync, prepare, build images, right? Over here, sync, prepare, build images, right? And then so let's just say you don't want build images. Well, all you have to do is go delete this line, and then you don't have it anymore. You see what I mean? So this file just controls the automation. You want your own stuff, you want different stuff, cool. You just edit this file, right? All right, so number one, GitLab ci.yaml. That's the file that controls what happens. Most people understand that. For a trial, one of the things that I will mention to people is we have examples that you can use. So let's just say that you want to get started on a Django application. Well, you can copy and paste this in, and that's how you can get started quicker, right? The last thing I want to talk about is a GitLab runner. It's going to come up in some of your conversations, not a lot, but I just want you to be prepared for it. So what a GitLab runner is here's the computer that runs GitLab. And then it's running the website, right? So as you know, one of the main things that GitLab does is running all this automation. And if you can see like just the amount of automation that our site is running right now, all of this automation is running, like a lot of automation is running, right? Just think about how like intense this is, right? So if the same computer that's running all these automated jobs is also running the website, the challenge is that if this is a lot, then the website gets slow. You see what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So what they do instead is you have some separate computers and they work as a team. This is your runners, and then they're running your automation. So now if you have a lot of automation, your website's not slow. So it's a separate computer. Okay. Cool. Okay, cool. Can I help clarify anything?
No, thank you. It's clear.
Okay, awesome. So just this presentation in like one line is just to summarize, the way that we're special is really the fact that we're a single application with CI and security built in. Our product data shows that once people get started and start seeing CI and our security, that's when people up tier from free to premium. And that's also when people go from premium to ultimate. Okay. So very, very, very important. You also have a pipeline contribution part of your quota. If you get people interested in security, that's a good way for you to then increase your pipeline contribution amount. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's it for the presentation. I'll stop recording.